Reverend Brooks.
First of all, it would dilute this coming together, this proposed consolidation would dilute both the minority and rural political influence by increasing the area of representation while decreasing the number of representatives. A prime example of that would be what is currently the 4th ward would actually be attached to a portion of the 6th ward, which would make up the 6th district, the 4th district. So that 4th district would then be a diluted 4th ward, and therefore the representation that we currently have would be threatened by consolidation. In your rural areas, you would have potentially 1 or 2 representatives, but again, because currently we have our county commission form of government, our county council form of government, our city council form of government, we have recourse as well. And so for my position is that consolidation would lead to the dilution of minority and rural political influence by increasing the areas, numbers, and it would also cause elections to become more expensive because of the pure dynamics of campaign in such a consolidated form of government. The mayoral position campaign in Louisville was found to be much more expensive after consolidation, so I use that as my case study. Yes, please. Thank you. Well, in this new form of government, no group would be at the table. There will be only certain folks who will be elected. We will lose 2 of the most educated representatives that we have, in Stephanie Terry and Connie Robinson, if this referendum goes through. Also, we have a case study of Roy Sutton losing in a previous county commission race as our guy. And so we've looked at the demographics, we've looked at the studies, and we've looked at voting trends. And so we predicate our decision not upon a map that was given to us. I used the yes map. I didn't use a map from the no side. I used the yes map and came to my conclusions. So if there was a mistake made, it was not made by me. I just simply used the information that you provided.
Reverend Brooks.
The other thing we found, I'm into studies so that I can quantify what I say instead of just going off of emotions. One particular study on Louisville consolidation said, instead of leading to cities without suburbs, consolidation can also lead to suburbs without a city. In Louisville, city-county consolidation has enhanced the ability of affluent suburbanites while reducing the political influence of blue-collar, inner-city residents, particularly African-American residents. The irony of this realignment is that it has diluted the city's core constituency and weakened its ability to defend itself. We find that political realignment counts most. Consolidation was used to lodge a great deal of power in a strong mayor, making it more difficult for poorly financed candidates to run for that office. I'll just leave it there. The other thing I would add is simply this. We currently have a sheriff's department and we have a police department. Both of those law enforcement groups are committed to working in specific areas. One more rural and agrarian, the other one more urban. I see nothing wrong with people being committed to working in those particular areas that they've decided to work in without the influence of others trying to consolidate but not consolidate, because we didn't bring them together. All we did was simply we're bringing them under a consolidated form of government without consolidating these major law enforcement agencies. I still believe that people who are committed to work, live in rural areas ought to be allowed to do so without the infringement of the city.
Okay, I want to ask you
and that the city should then accept responsibility for the bills that we have made, for the decisions that we've made we need to accept those responsibilities without reaching out for county taxpayers.
Mayor, when
There's no cost savings attributed to this merger, and the financial study by Crowe Horwath showed an increase and not a decrease in tax revenues needed to sustain the new form of government. I was a member of the Finance Committee that reviewed the report. The study does make this assumption on page 20, that there would be a decrease, initial decrease, 0.13 per $100 of NAV, net assessed value, for city residents, but that will be offset, city residents, by the increase called for in the water sewer rates, and an increase of 0.28 per $100 of net assessed value for county residents. The merger also does not address the iniquity that Brother Rick Davis talked about in our taxing districts, which in our county allows one of the poorest townships, which is Pigeon, to have one of the highest property tax rates. So it doesn't address that issue. To people like me, this is a moral, ethical issue, where you have the poorest, the most vulnerable, paying some of the highest rates. And so, again, I'll leave it at that. Let me go first. Economic development agencies already are regionalized in our city. I'm on the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, and I'm on the Board of Directors for the Economic Development Coalition of Southwestern Indiana. So our regional efforts are already in place in terms of recruitment and retention of small and large business, medium-sized businesses. So there's nothing in the plan that says that we are going to become laser-focused in our economic development. There's nothing in the plan that addresses that issue. So to assert that this is somehow going to help us when the unemployment rates of those very cities that we're using to model have higher unemployment rates just seems a little inconsistent. So that's why I cannot support that assertion, because there are cities that we are looking at that actually have higher unemployment rates and less economic development than we do.
Mr. Davis. What about?
There's no documented austerity in the plan. It costs more to implement, maintain the form of government, so apparently cost reductions is not the reason. Increased efficiency is not the reason for consolidation, because if it were, we would be able to find some cost savings and not just the same figure of $700,000 has been thrown out. But the fact of the matter is there are 6 different scenarios that are used. And so I don't know exactly which scenario, but there are some scenarios that there was no cost savings, there were other scenarios that were. Bottom line is that if it is cost reduction and increased efficiency and economic development, neither of those are cited in the plan. And I can only go by the plan. So there's nothing in the plan. If it were, then we would have combined law enforcement. We did not combine law enforcement, and that was a huge expenditure where we could have saved about $2.3 million. So if it was to reduce costs, then we left that out there. If it's for economic development, there's no economic development plan in the referendum. Just human behaviors. I think when you think about what will happen with this consolidated form of government, when it's budget time, the sheriff and the Evansville Police Department will be competing for resources, either directly or indirectly, which can lead to some very difficult labor relations between the sheriff and his chain of command, his rank and file, and the Evansville Police Department and their rank and file. What happens when the city policemen want to take on an initiative where they need extra money, and the sheriff's department wants to take on an initiative where they need extra money, and there's only so much money to go around? What happens under those scenarios is you have whoever has the most political clout garnering the most resources, where the other suffers. I can see that suffering coming to the center city.
10 seconds.
One of the things I said a long time ago when we were in our committee structure, and that was, I don't know why it's so easy for me to come up with a PowerPoint against the plan, but it's very difficult, and it was difficult even with the marketing committee to come up with PowerPoint and support the plan. To be very candid with you, what our community needs to do is to get over its inferiority complex that plagues our community. Evansville is a doorway to the southern region of the United States, but not a doormat for people to clean their professional feet on the way to Indianapolis. So we have to get over that, and whatever happens, whether this referendum is voted for or against by the majority of our citizens, there are still some great innovations that can happen within our community. So I take this position. This is where I am. I'm against it. I'm against it because I think it's going to hurt the people that I love the most in this community and some of the most vulnerable. That's why I'm against this plan, period. But at the same time, after this is all over with, I'm more than happy to talk about some case studies of innovation that goes on all over this country that could certainly be implemented into our city. So I look forward to always talking to the yes folks, because I'm friends with a lot of yes folks, and I hope I still am. I hope they ain't tripping just because I'm against it. One clarification needs to be made, and we took the time, and I want to thank an individual who actually inquired with the Congressional Office of Larry Sean to get this information to see how we would be impacted as it relates to community development block grant monies by this merger. Because what's going to happen is that they project that we would lose, we would go from receiving $2.3 million to $2.5 million dollars in community development money into our community. And so I think people need to understand that all we're really doing is moving furniture. We're just, you're going to say you got more population, and you're going to dilute your poverty rate, but your poverty rate, the number of poor folks you got is still going to remain the same. But yet we're going to receive less resources to address those issues. So while you've got a decaying core, you will have less resources to address the issue of decay within our urban core. So I think people need to understand that that is one of the impacts that will happen as a result of bringing the county and city together. You haven't solved any problems, you've made it sound better, you made it look better maybe statistically, but you have not solved the problem that exists as it relates to the decaying core. Those are competitive grants. This is an entitlement program. We will receive CDBG monies. Those others, we have not been able to compete. We've tried to compete before. I've been doing community development in this city for well over 18 years. And so those programs that you just named, those are all competitive programs that we have not been able to compete for, as well as the Hope 6 monies and other programs that are out there. We cannot compete against those programs. When I talk about guaranteed kinds of programs like the CDBG and home dollars that come into our community every year, these monies come based on a formula which deals with poverty and housing and census tract information. And so therefore, when I talk about CDBG monies, I'm not talking about these other monies that you've got to compete with all the other cities across the country with I'm talking about just simply, these are monies that are given to our community based on a formula that we receive. And I'm glad you got the letter, because I told you about it, because I don't think that it's fair for me to blindside you and not inform you of my resources. And so I wanted this to be a very objective, level debate. And so that's why I told y'all about this level.
Wrap it up.
It's not because I was trying to do anything slick, y'all.
All right, Reverend Brooks.
really, in the final analysis, what matters is the quality of political leaders we elect, and not the administrative organizational chart that we sometimes blame for the condition of our community. It matters not really whether we have consolidated government or not if we don't have innovative, creative leadership who are also fiscally responsible. I support and have supported our current mayor. His name's Lloyd Winning, just in case somebody didn't know. And I consider him a friend. We just disagree on this. I support him because I believe that he is able to do some creative, innovative things. That's why I support him. It has, and he just cited the Cloverleaf issue that has been resolved. So that resolution happened, not because of consolidated government, but because of his lobbying and other quality political leaders who lobbied to make it happen. It has nothing to do with the form of government. It has everything to do with the quality of the people that we elect. And that's why I cannot support this, because it threatens the quality of the political leadership we have as it relates to some of our African American members of council, city council, county council, as well as female members of county council, county commission, and city council. I want to make sure that we continue to have a voice. We won't have a voice if you bring 62,000 white voters, mix them with 120 voters in the city. You'll dilute the black vote down to 5 or 6%. Currently, 15 to 16. We are a major swing vote. I'm just going to be honest. We're a nice swing vote right now. And we swung it in a way that it made a difference in the last city election and some of these county elections. If you dilute us down to nothing, we won't have a voice. And what we're seeing in Louisville is those individuals are being negatively impacted by consolidated government. The poor, the Hispanic, African American, those who, the elderly,
Reverend Brooks, you're going to have to wrap.
those who need it the most are the ones who've been looked over the most in consolidated government.
Mr.
So I agree with everything that the mayor asserted about quality of life issues, and all of that can happen without consolidated government.
All right, very well. Do you feel the voters, though, out there, those people who will be walking into those polls on November 6th, do you feel they fully understand this argument that we have been discussing tonight? I'll go to the floor first.
Well, one, I've tried to be very succinct.
And please keep it on time. Keep you on time.
It's a heck of a thing to say to a preacher, isn't it?
Well, I want to try.
Very fun. I've tried to be very clear as to my reasons for being against consolidation. I tried as best I could to be very succinct. I did bullet points. One, there's no savings. Two, there's no evidence of the laser-focused economic development. Three, there's the dilution of so many portions of our population that no longer will have access to a lot of our governmental leadership. The newspaper's going to do this tomorrow, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. They're going to ethnicize everything I've said. I've talked about the Crow-Horowitz study and all these other things. They're going to ethnicize. They're going to say something like Brooks talked about the black vote and how it's diluted because they want to sell papers. But the truth of the matter is, I've talked about a lot of other things. That's why I wrote the letter. Because what people want to do sometimes is they want to take away your credibility as being broad and objective by putting you in a little peg, making you fit there. Look at what I said about why I am against in terms of cost efficiencies, inclusion of the rural as well as minority representation vote. It's wonderful to be idealistic, but I'm sorry, I'm a native of this city. I know this city. I know this city. And I mean, I know it. I know it from the Hornbill Tavern to Ray Ray's and Chicken Sticks. So I know this community. And I base my objective assessment on what I have experienced in this community, and I've tried to quantify it with statistical data to support my positions.
Mr. Davis, our closing statements now.
My friends, I'm a pastor. The other three are politicians. I'm a pastor. I'm a public servant. I'm not going to run for anything. I'm not going to run for dog catcher or anything. I simply looked at the plan. I came to the conclusion that I had to be against it. It would dilute minority, rural, political influence. There's no evidence that cities that merge forms of government are more laser focused in their economic development. There's no cost savings attributed to it. It doesn't address the iniquities in the taxing districts. There's no documented austerity. The economic development agencies are already working on our behalf. If the city and county law enforcement are able to continue their effective urban and rural law enforcement practices, then why can't the other agencies? Controversy involving the Human Relations Commission highlighted why consolidation is bad. As the voices of the most vulnerable were weakened, this new unified form of government would become less sensitive to the needs of those who have suffered discrimination based on race, gender, or sexual orientation. I'm afraid that in this new merged government, the city council would not have been able to step in and continue this needed agency. If the county had its way, they would have defunded. We would not have the city council as a recourse when bad decisions are made. Why can't those of us who live in the city solve our problems and accept responsibility for the decisions we've made instead of trying to grab new taxpayers? Why can't the city and county just manage what we have more responsibly and become more innovative? Owensboro seems to be showing us up here lately. They don't have merged government. They just got creative, innovative leadership. You quit moving furniture, create a community that people want to move to, let the city and county get their fiscal houses in order, and stop avoiding the real problems that are affecting our community. Please understand, I'm a preacher. Tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, I'll go hold the hands of one of my little 7-year-old members that's getting his tonsils out. That's what I do. I came from the nursing home holding the hands of a woman who's dying from cancer. That's what I do. I don't have any hidden agenda here. I simply looked at the plan. I came up with my objective assessment as to why I'm against the plan. That, my friends, is all I have to say.
Thank you.